Hello, Oilers fans. Austin here with the day after discussion of the Oilers' 6-5 loss to the Florida Panthers. Last night was full of so many different emotions, and you could probably tell in my post-game reaction from last night just how I truly felt about the game. But now that I was able to sleep on things and kind of get my head sorted the way I want in order to discuss what I want to talk about without being too emotionally charged about it, I think this is a good opportunity to do that. And at the end of the day, the main theme of this video is just going to be we're not overreacting. We're not going to overreact to a one-game sample size. However, the cracks were showing against Vegas and the dam burst against the Florida Panthers in terms of the defensive coverage, in terms of the goaltending finally for Edmonton collapsing a little bit last night. Now, if they follow up this performance and they play the Boston Bruins on Thursday and the Edmonton Oilers do a phenomenal job and they get a big win, we're all forgetting about this Florida game. We're not even going to be talking about this because that means that the Oilers are still an elite team. However, if they play the Boston Bruins on Thursday and it's an absolute disaster defensively, goaltending, special teams, then we're going to have a different tune to sing. And until that happens, I'm not going to worry about it. Last night's loss was frustrating because this was the team that beat the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Final back in June. If this was a 6-5 loss to, let's say, the Winnipeg Jets, would we be frustrated? Yes. Would we be as emotionally compromised as we were last night? Maybe not so as much, unless Kelly Sutherland was also officiating that hypothetical game. Kelly Sutherland, you know, a lot of people were rightfully kind of cheesed at Sutherland, and Sutherland's been around the game for a long time. But there are other fan bases that are truly also familiar with him. Of course, the Vancouver Canucks and their fans, they absolutely despise Kelly Sutherland because of the 2011 Stanley Cup Final against the Boston Bruins. And Leafs fans also absolutely despise Kelly Sutherland. Sutherland officiates a lot of the Bruins and Leafs playoff series from, every series. Kelly Sutherland officiated at least a couple games that I'm aware of since 2013. And I'm pretty sure there's a video out there of Steve Dangle. I don't know if it was a playoff game or a regular season game, but he absolutely loses his marbles at how Kelly Sutherland officiated a game during one of his LFRs. Really, really funny to watch. Steve Dangle's hilarious to me. Love his content too. Kelly Sutherland last night, it's unfortunate that it had to be him, but it's not only him. The officials in that Vegas game also set a pretty nasty precedent, and there's a couple plays that I want to show before I get into the actual meat and potatoes of the day after discussion. So by the way, if you haven't been enjoying the video or the podcast, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to follow, subscribe to the channel. All of that goes a long way in supporting me, so thank you. Now, for those of you obviously currently watching on YouTube right now, there's a couple plays that I want to show that were not called penalties for whatever reason, and I will discuss the Darnell Nurse extra 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike. But first, there is a hit that I want to show everyone on Troy Stecher that was not called a penalty, and I'm absolutely flabbergasted that they let this go. It's in the numbers on Stecher. He lifts his feet. He jumps into the hit. He comes in, number 27 on Florida there. Troy Stecher goes to back. And this is when it's 4-2. So, if Edmonton were to have gotten a power play here, which rightfully they should have, Edmonton maybe goes up 5-2, and maybe we're not even talking about the way Florida was able to come back and win this game, which, by the way, Panthers fans, Florida played a good game. They played a Florida Panther-style game, and they won. They deserved it. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Panthers right now. So let's take a look at this hit on Stecher. Just a nasty, nasty hit into the boards. And, of course, we've got Kelly Sutherland watching the whole thing. Absolutely just eyes wide shut. That's all I'm going to say. Eyes wide shut. Let's get another look at it. It's just such a nasty hit, and he jumps into the hit, too. Into the numbers, and Stecher doesn't turn away from him. Stecher is playing the puck. He's looking up to where he wants to play the puck the whole time. And I don't know how you don't call a penalty here. This is so bad. So bad. We're lucky Troy Stecher was not injured off that. If Stecher had been injured from that play, I would have been incredibly, incredibly disappointed. And then last night with the net pulled, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had his stick slashed and busted out of his hand here. So I'm just going to quickly play the clip. Puck comes out in front. Nuge, he's looking for a pass here. Draisaitl throws it towards the goal. Bobrovsky, what a save by Bobrovsky, by the way. Like, holy smokes, man. We want to talk about a goalie that struggled last night. It was Sergei, but he made the one save that he had to make to keep this game from being tied by the Edmonton Oilers. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in front of the net, as that shot's happening, he's looking, and then look at this, man. You can see the stick just explode. Like, and again, there's no call. Nuge, he drops the stick. He puts his hands up. He doesn't understand why the heck there was no penalty there. Thank you to the Tough Call podcast. They're really good at posting stuff like this that a lot of fans might miss, and, you know, they provide good context, so that's really good to see. And then Kelly Sutherland, I just wanted to give another huge shout out. Look how animated he is. Look how much he absolutely loves the spectacle of the cameras and lights on him and the fans. And Darnell Nurse, he didn't even say anything really that I thought would warrant him getting an extra 2 minutes. Look how animated Sutherland is here. Oh, geez. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, classic. Great job, Sutherland. So just wanted to address some of the officiating, a couple of the non-calls. Of course, the Oilers did get away with a couple calls of their own, and it's not what ultimately decided this hockey game, but the way the game was officiated allowed Florida to play a style that suits them better than it suits the Edmonton Oilers. I have talked about this in the past. There are some styles of play that benefit some teams over others. That style, it's like that Vegas game where they won 1-0. And there were no penalties on either team. And it's one of those situations where that benefits a team like Vegas. And again, the way the game was officiated last night, that benefits a team like the Florida Panthers. And that's how the playoffs are. We've seen how the playoffs get officiated. And for the most part, the officiating for Edmonton Oilers games has been pretty fair this year. The Oilers are one of the least penalized teams in the entire league. So it's just, again, the emotions last night were at another level because of the team that Edmonton was playing, because of the circumstances, the heightened emotional state of both fan bases. Was Kelly Sutherland the reason why Edmonton lost? No, absolutely not. But again, the officials did have an impact on the game, and for the Edmonton Oilers, they weren't able to get over that. But my bigger concern for Edmonton was their defensive structure and goaltending more than how the officials were acting on the ice. And I'm probably going to try and never talk about Kelly Sutherland again because I know how much that guy just wants the attention. So we're going to leave it at that. So let's get into the actual day after discussion here. I'm going to try and keep things kind of brief. This is not going to be a 40-minute long episode like the last one. As always, everything is going to be timestamped. So if there's anything that you want to skip to, anything that, any specific topic that I have on the screen that you want to jump to and hear me talk about, I will leave the timestamp in the description below. And of course, with the little media player on the YouTube player, you'll be able to skip to it easily as well. Our topics for discussion today, the cracks were showing. Mentioned it a little bit in the intro. The cracks were showing before this game. Edmonton was due for one of these blowout type games. I don't know why the score at the bottom of the screen still says 6-3. It was clearly 6-5 Florida. Incredible. Love that. Bottom six stinks. The bottom six last night was absolutely horrifically bad. I've never seen the bottom six put up a game that was that bad, and some players last night had more ice time than others that definitely didn't deserve it. And I was a little bit disappointed in the utilization of certain players, especially we'll talk about it. Skinner and Bouchard, I'm gonna touch on them briefly. I'm not going to flame them too bad, but I am going to discuss, when I talk about other players that have bad games during day after discussions, I've been notorious on doing it for players like Darnell Nurse. And for Skinner and Bouchard, two players that I constantly defend on this channel. Last night was a tough game for both of them. Likely Bouchard is not 100% because of that hit that he took from Hartman against Minnesota last, Friday or something, or Thursday. I don't think Bouchard's 100%. However, it doesn't excuse some of the plays that we saw from him last night. And Stuart Skinner obviously has to be much better. And then we're going to do a little early preview of the Boston Bruins. We'll take a look at the Bruins coming into town on Thursday, which I personally am very much looking forward to because I am also a partial Bruins fan. And by partial Bruins fan, I mean I like the Bruins pretty much just as much as I like the Oilers. I absolutely adore them, and I'm excited for that game personally. That game usually has a lot of emotional weight for me, and it's going to be interesting. I got to make sure that I'm parking too much bias for either team so that I'm able to critically analyze whatever happens during that game. And then, of course, my final thoughts. So let's jump into it. I know the intro was long. There's just a couple things that I had wanted to touch on before we got into the discussion. So last night, the cracks were showing, and it wasn't just last night. It was the game specifically against the Vegas Golden Knights. I mentioned this last night in the post-game fan reaction that the cracks were showing and that Edmonton was pretty much due for a game like this. The Oilers have been very defensively sound lately. Their special teams have been much better. 5-on-5 depth scoring, it's all been there. But that Vegas game, the Oilers had a 5-0 lead, and they took their foot off the gas. Vegas was starting to take advantage of some zone entries. They were starting to take advantage of, some high-danger areas of the ice, and they were able to capitalize on a couple goals. They eventually got to within 2 goals, and if you're up 5-0, you probably don't want to get to within 2 goals. Vegas made it 5-3 early in that third period. And Edmonton, they got the killer. They made it 6-3, and then they locked down the rest of the third period. But the thing is, they gave themselves a good buffer. Last night against the Florida Panthers, they had a 2-goal lead. They were up 4-2 in the second period. Late in the second period, Florida got a late one, 4-3. And for how Edmonton has played all season long, a 1-goal lead heading into the third period should not have been too much of an issue for this team. We've seen how good they can be defensively, how structured and disciplined they have been in recent weeks. They are 12-4-1 in their last 17 games. So overall, I'm not entirely concerned about what we saw last night. Teams will have those off nights. Teams will have nights where defensively they're not really there. The giveaways, the turnovers, players falling down. It was such a weird game last night. It just felt like a chaotic game. It didn't feel nearly as disciplined or as structured as previous games that we've seen from this team. I'm sure Chris Knobloch was ready to rip his hair out a little bit. He was probably pretty frustrated. He doesn't show a lot of emotion behind that bench, but I guarantee behind closed doors, he probably shows a little bit more emotion than when the cameras are on his face. But the cracks were showing last night. The dam finally burst. They were due for a game where a team is just going to score a ton of goals. For the Oilers, they scored 5, and that should be more than enough to win a hockey game. You can talk about the goaltending, you can talk about the officiating, you can talk about the defense. At the end of the day, if you score 5, you should win. This is on the entire team as a group. Yes, some players didn't pull their weight more than others. That happens. That's going to happen during a season. If this is a one-off, like I mentioned, if they play Boston on Thursday and the game against the Boston Bruins goes really well, let's say they win like 4-1, they give up 25 shots, defensively they look good, Stuart Skinner bounces back, they get a power play goal, and things are looking good, we're going to chalk up this loss to the Florida Panthers as just, it's just one of those games. However, if the Edmonton Oilers play Boston and we see a lot more of what we saw last night against Florida and the night before against the Vegas Golden Knights, we're going to be concerned here. We're going to be a little bit concerned on what's going on with the structure of this team and which players should and should not likely get a lot of ice time. So for now, we're not going to worry about it too much. Just because the cracks were showing doesn't mean that this team is bad. It doesn't mean that the Edmonton Oilers are a bad team. In fact, they are still a very good team. 12-4-1 in their last 17. That's fantastic. That's really good hockey. That is a top 10 team in the league type of hockey. So we'll see if the Oilers are able to bounce back Thursday and get a big win against the Bruins. Next up, we're going to talk about the bottom 6 last night. And the bottom 6 for Edmonton, yes, Connor Brown scored. And yes, Corey Perry has scored lately. But there are a couple players specifically in that bottom 6 that I don't know what they're doing when they're on the ice, but it's a whole lot of nothing. It is a whole lot of absolutely nothing, and there's a few players that I'm going to go after specifically here. Not that I want to go after certain players. I try not to sound super negative about this type of stuff. But last night, I mentioned it in the post-game reaction. Jeff Skinner, when he was on the ice, the Oilers shot attempts for 0. When he was on the ice, the Oilers never even threw a puck towards Sergei Bobrovsky. And I've never seen anything like that, especially in the analytics era. I've never seen a player play over 11 minutes. He played 11 minutes, 21 seconds, and was on the ice for 0 shot attempts for. That's a fifth of the hockey game that he just was skating around. I don't know. Like, that's crazy that impact was so negative. But he's not the only one. Derek Ryan, he only played 7 minutes and 19 seconds last night. He did not have a good game, and they really limited his ice time because of the physicality of the Panthers, the speed of the game. Derek Ryan, he's not at a point where he's able to keep up anymore. And as unfortunate as it is, would we have rather Derek Ryan in the lineup last night or a young rookie like Noah Philp, who just came back into the hockey world after taking a full year off? What would have been worse, do you think, Oilers fans, if Noah Philp was in that lineup going up against Florida for the first time in his career, or having Derek Ryan try and shelter a little bit for 7 minutes? I don't know. I don't know if I would have liked to see Noah Philp in that lineup last night, the way Florida was playing. Poor Noah Philp, that would have been a tough one. But another player I want to mention, Connor Brown. Yes, he did score. So it's hard for me to get mad at Connor Brown. But when he was on the ice, his expected goals for percentage last night was 3.49%. Again, these are numbers that I've never really seen or heard of before in a full hockey game. The bottom six was absolutely torched by the Florida Panthers. Adam Henrique. Does anyone know what Adam Henrique actually does out there? Just out of curiosity. Does anyone know? Is anyone familiar with Adam Henrique's play? Does he score goals? Does he put up assists? Does he win faceoffs? Is he a good penalty killer? Is he on the power play? I legitimately don't know. Adam Henrique is an absolute ghost every single night. And that's a player that I think I need to mention a little bit more in terms of their lack of play. I don't know what is going on with Adam Henrique this season. Yes, he's a little bit older. He should not be crumbling this much in terms of his on-ice impacts. And last night, he had 0% impact on the ice. Well, okay, never. He didn't have 0%. When he was on the ice, 2 shots for 17 shots against, or shot attempts, I should say, for a Corsi for percentage of 10.53%. Actual shots on goal were 7-2 in favor of Florida when Adam Henrique was on the ice, and Adam Henrique finished the night with a 10% expected goals for percentage. We love that from Adam Henrique. Ty Emberson last night was also absolutely caved. Him and Troy Stetcher did not have a good game at all. Even Darnell Nurse and Brett Kulak didn't have the best game either when it comes to the advanced metrics, but at least Nurse and Kulak gave them quality, solid minutes. Ty Emberson last night played almost 16 minutes, and he was only on the ice for 3 shot attempts. 4. Of course, a lot of his ice time came with that bottom 6. Troy Stetcher does not get much ice time with any of the Oilers' top guns, but you need a defenseman that's able to move the puck, that's able to get the puck to your forwards and allow them to go on transition. The Oilers were unable to do that when Ty Emberson was on the ice. He finished the night with a 11.9% expected goals for percentage. Corey Perry, he was the least bad of the bottom 6 for Edmonton. He was on the ice for 2 goals for, 0 goals against last night, and his expected goals for was only 28%. So for Corey Perry, again, he was the least bad bottom 6 forward last night, and I would say Corey Perry's actually been a terrific bottom 6 forward. But Jeff Skinner, Derek Ryan, Matthias Janmark, Adam Henrique, these guys just had the game of a lifetime, just a generational style game. And I'm going to be seeing how they bounce back against the Boston Bruins. You cannot expect to win hockey games when half of your lineup is just unable to do anything when they're on the ice. When you have half of your lineup being unable to even get a puck towards the opponent's goaltender, doesn't matter how good Draisaitl and Hyman and Nuge and them are playing, they're not going to be able to make up for that type of play. That's almost half of the game time being just stuck in your own zone. And Florida, they took advantage of that, and they took advantage of some of the line matchups. For Edmonton last night, they loaded up Draisaitl and McDavid for the second period. I didn't agree with it. I still don't agree with it. I think that they are still better off having them split. Did it result in some offense? Yes, it absolutely did. But moving forward, this team needs to figure out what's going on with the bottom 6 here, because the top 6 was phenomenal. Vasily Podkolzin last night, he only played 10 minutes and 31 seconds, and that is only ahead of Derek Ryan and Corey Perry. Those are the only 2 players that he had more ice time than. And for whatever reason, the coaching staff does not play Podkolzin as much as they should. And Podkolzin, for how much of a positive impact he has when he's out there. When Podkolzin was on the ice last night, the Oilers held a 94% expected goals for percentage. Podkolzin was on the ice for 8 shots for and 1 shot against, actual shots on goal. He drives play. Vasily Podkolzin drives play. The coaching staff has to trust him more. They have to let him play more ice time. They need to play him 15, 16 minutes a night with Draisaitl in order to maximize that value. And, there are a lot of fans who really, really want Jeff Skinner to be given that opportunity with either Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, and I just do not agree with that at all. I don't think Jeff Skinner has done nearly enough to justify that in terms of his overall impact at 5-on-5. Yes, he scored that big goal against Vegas, prevented them from probably coming back in that game even further, and kind of quieted things down. That's a good thing. I need to see that consistently from Jeff Skinner. At least Vasily Podkolzin, every night we're talking about how good of a game he had. Jeff Skinner, it seems like one game, that was a pretty good game. The next game, oh man, that's one of the worst games I've ever seen from Jeff Skinner. The third game, he was okay. The ebbs and flows of Jeff Skinner's hockey game is just all over the place. He needs to be way, way better. And until he shows consistent, I need to see a 5 or 6 game stretch of consistently good hockey. And don't give me the excuse that Jeff Skinner needs to play with top 6 players. You can carve out a role in the bottom 6. Is it optimal for that style of player? Absolutely not. But if Jeff Skinner wants to have an impact, you'd think that him playing in the bottom 6 and going up against some of the other team's 3rd and 4th lines, if Jeff Skinner was really that good, he'd be able to drive play, he'd be able to get some goals, drive some offense, and he has been unable to do that this year. He looks lost out there. And not just in terms of being lost on the Oilers. He looks like he doesn't know what he's supposed to do half the time. He is an absolute train wreck to watch some days. And that's a really harsh thing for me to say about Jeff Skinner. I like Jeff Skinner. I do. I thought that signing was great. I gloated about that signing. But right now, it's nowhere near good enough. And I know the fans want to see him have success. They want to see him with McDavid or Draisaitl because when he was signed, I think they likely envisioned him playing with one or the other, especially Draisaitl's wing. But other players are playing better. Kapanen scored again last night. Podkolzin does all the work. Well, he doesn't do all the work, but he does so much good work along the boards, in transition, his physicality, that how do you justify taking Podkolzin or Kapanen out of that top 6 right now to play someone like Jeff Skinner, who you don't know what you're getting from every single night? At least with Podkolzin, you know what you're getting every single night with him. And that's what's separating him from Jeff Skinner right now. You don't know what you're getting with Jeff Skinner on every single night. So that's my thoughts on the bottom 6. They need to tweak something. They need to make an adjustment. They need a bit more youth down there and probably a little bit more speed. And hopefully they are able to show up on Thursday against the Boston Bruins, because this team cannot afford this bottom 6 just not being able to do anything when they're on the ice. So let's see if they can get things back together here. And of course, Corey Perry, Connor Brown, they've been playing really good as of late. They were due for a stinker. At least Connor Brown scored last night, and we'll go from there. Next 2 players I want to talk about, and this one's going to be interesting because did Evan Bouchard have a bad game last night? Yes. We all watched with our own eyes, the giveaways, the turnovers, the shots into shin pads. Of course, I'm not going to entirely blame him for the puck that hit Zach Hyman in the face. Yes, he did have a Bouch bomb. He's not aiming for his teammate's head. I saw a lot of fans mad about that. That's hockey. That's an accident. Those things happen. The thing that I get upset about with Evan Bouchard is that we know how good he is and we know how good he can be. So nights like last night, where right from the beginning of the game, we were sitting there going, oh no. Oh, this Bouchard looks a little off right now. And he did not have a good game. The advanced metrics say Evan Bouchard had a good game. This is one of those situations where, even though I love the advanced metrics, I am going with my eyes more than what the numbers say, because it seemed like consistently Evan Bouchard was on the ice and making decisions with the puck that were completely detrimental to the team. They were detrimental to the ability for the Oilers to get out of their own zone, detrimental for Stuart Skinner having to be forced to make different saves in different situations. And when Evan Bouchard was on the ice last night, Florida had 8 shots on the actual net. 9 shots on goal. Was it 8? Hold on. No, it was 7. 7 shots on goal in all situations when Evan Bouchard was on the ice. Florida Panthers were outshot 16-7 with Bouchard on the ice, but the problem is 4 of those 7 shots went in. That is not good. And now we're going to talk about Stuart Skinner, because Bouchard, I'm acknowledging how horrible his game was defensively, offensively, in the neutral zone. His skating was a little off. We know he's not 100% right now. Not trying to make excuses. If you're in the lineup, you've got to be able to perform to your best. And if you are injured, the coaching staff shouldn't play you for 23 minutes. So is he actually injured? I don't know. Is he good enough where the coaching staff goes, yeah, we'll play him for 23 minutes because we can't play Ty Emberson anymore because Ty Emberson is being absolutely shelled out there. Whatever happened last night, it wasn't good enough from Evan Bouchard. I just think it's interesting that Bouchard, if you want to know what he finished with in terms of expected goals for last night, his expected goals for percentage was 67.51%. That's really good. But I don't think the analytics that Natural Stat Trick is tracking is properly tracking the opportunities that Florida was getting when Bouchard was on the ice. And it doesn't completely track what is going on the ice apart from that individual player. So Bouchard, it's a tough situation when it comes to the advanced metrics. I want to believe those metrics, but we watched the game last night. We know he didn't play well. This is a situation where I take the analytics with a little bit of grain of salt, and we all agree Bouchard needs to be much, much better. Of course, the analytics crowd, they're going to come out and be like, you know what? Like, he was fine. There was, yes, he made a couple of mistakes, but you want your goalie to save it, and then the fans will blame Stuart Skinner. So we're going to talk about Skinner now. Did Skinner have a bad game? Yes, he actually had a horrifically bad game. That's one of the worst games I think I've ever seen from Stuart Skinner. Not entirely at fault, of course, but no one ever is. It's any goal that goes in. There are a lot of things that happen before a puck goes into your net. But at the end of the day, you need your goalie to make the save. You need your goaltender to make the save. Last night, in a 6-5 lead for Florida, Edmonton has the net pulled. Leon Draisaitl has a wide open cage, left side of the net, and Sergei Bobrovsky with an acrobatic comes across the crease, throws his blocker at it, and makes a massive save. And that's the difference between a goaltender that can win and a goaltender that finds a way to lose. And for Stuart Skinner, I still believe in him. I still think this is a one-off. Until we see what happens against Boston or San Jose on Saturday, I don't know which games he's going to start here. Until we see more games where Skinner looks like he did last night, I won't be concerned, because heading into last night, he had won 6 of his last 7. I think in 7 of his last 8 games, he had put up a .930 save percentage or better, or .920 save percentage or better. Like, he's been playing very, very good hockey. Last night was a tough one, and it's frustrating. A lot of people are mad about the Reinhart goal from behind the red line. Well, when Connor McDavid does it to other goalies, we're all sitting there going, wow, Connor McDavid is a special player. That's an amazing goal. Because most players miss the net. They either miss the net, they shoot it over, they shoot it wide. So to pick that spot, it's one of those situations where sometimes you tip the cap to the shooter. It just looks bad because Skinner has given up goals from that type of shot before. When he goes down, and that was it the RSV position or whatever. I can't remember what the term that they coin when the goalie goes down kind of on one knee and leans against the post. Reinhart's goal last night to me was a snipe. Connor McDavid does that to goalies at least 2 or 3 times a year, and we're always just in awe at what McDavid is doing. For Reinhart, that's a tip of the cap goal. The goals that I did not like were pretty much all the other ones, other than the Tkachuk kick. Now, I didn't even show the Tkachuk kicking motion because, I don't know. I didn't want to get into that discourse because we all know the NHL is consistent at being inconsistent with their calls, with their logic. I felt that should not have counted for 2 reasons. One, Tkachuk's skate is off the ice. We all know that if your skate remains on the ice and you move your foot, you can angle your foot. And if the puck goes off of your foot and in, that is not a kicking motion. A distinct kicking motion is moving your foot back and forward in any kind of way where it looks like you are trying to kick that puck. He lifted his puck off the ice and then kicked his foot forward. Now, the puck had already deflected, so the actual kicking motion didn't have an effect on where that puck was going. The puck was going to go in the net after the puck had hit his skate off the ice, regardless. But the optics of that, I'm shocked that goal was not called back because of the precedent that could send. They don't want players kicking pucks in the net for obvious reasons, for safety reasons. You know how dangerous that is with players on their skates trying to kick a puck in the net? Come on. But for the fact that Tkachuk was able to lift his skate off of the ice and have that forward motion with it, and the league initiated the review and then still said, you know what? Yep, that's a goal. Doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to blame Skinner for that one, but he is at fault for 4 of the 6 goals, and he needed to be much better last night for the Edmonton Oilers, and he was not much better for the Edmonton Oilers. It's one of those games. Everyone's going to cry about consistency. Well, it's now 7 of his last 9 games. He's put up a .930 save percentage or more. That's pretty consistently good to me. If he does that 7 out of every 10 games for the rest of the season, I consider that to be consistent, and I consider that to be consistently good. Yes, he was the second best goaltender on the ice last night. It happens a lot. Until we see signs that this is not a one-off, if we start to see signs that Skinner is struggling, if he struggles for 2 or 3 or 4 games in a row now, yes, absolutely, we're going to have another conversation about where he's at and where the team is at in terms of needing an upgrade. For now, I'm still chalking this up as a 1-game sample size. I'm not going to overthink it or overanalyze it too much. Now let's get into the Boston Bruins and Edmonton Oilers preview, and then we'll wrap things up. So if you're still tuning in at this point in the video, thank you so much. Friendly reminder, smash the like button. It goes a long way in supporting the channel. We're going to take a look at the Bruins, who have had a up and down season. The Boston Bruins, to me, are not a good team. I think they are being heavily inflated by games that they've won that they didn't deserve to win. They made their coaching change. Joe Sacco is their coach. They recently completely destroyed the Vancouver Canucks. They beat them 5-1 or something a couple nights ago. But let's take a look at the Boston Bruins. I'm also going to move my big fat head over to the left side of the screen so that we can take a look at some of these stats. Now, of course, the last 5 games, David Pastrnak has 8 points. Draisaitl is 13. Marchand with 5 goals. Zach Hyman with 5 goals. Hyman's been hot, by the way. Hyman's been playing really good hockey. And then assists, Draisaitl has 9 assists in the last 5 games. David Pastrnak has 6. If we look at the power play, the Boston Bruins, one of the worst power plays in the entire league. It is absolutely horrifically bad. Penalty kill, Boston's penalty kill is not great. 22nd in the league. Edmonton, 26th, 73.3%. Face-off percentage, the Oilers have a pretty good edge. The Oilers have been one of the best face-off teams in the NHL all season. Goals for per game, the Oilers 3.29. That's great. Boston 2.56 goals per game. Not great. They don't have a lot of depth. If Pastrnak and Marchand are not scoring, generally the Boston Bruins are not putting the puck in the net either. They do have some pieces that, you know, they've done a pretty good job, but at the end of the day, Boston is just, they're one of those teams where, again, they win games that I think they don't deserve to win. And Boston, a lot of their wins lately have come against some pretty bad teams. Goals against per game, 2.9 for Edmonton. That is inflated after last night, giving up 6 goals. 3.16 goals against per game for the Boston Bruins. Everything on paper pretty much shows that the Oilers should win this hockey game. But the Bruins and Oilers, they tend to play really, really exciting, high-octane games. Last year, you had that crazy 6-5 overtime win for the Bruins in Edmonton, and then like 2 weeks later, they played in Boston. Edmonton tied the game with the net pulled at 1, and then won in overtime 2-1. So one game was a shootout, one game was a defensive and goaltending duel. We'll see what this game has in store for us. I'm going to move my head over back to the right side of the screen here. Jeremy Swayman this season, he signed that big contract. He held out for more money, and it hasn't worked out for him or the team at all. Not only are his stats bad, and I think this is, again, save percentage and goals against are more of a team stat to me, but the goals saved above expected, if we go to Money Puck, like Jeremy Swayman is ranked so poorly when it comes to the goals save above expected. He is the second worst in the entire league in goals save above expected. He's been basically one of the worst goalies in the entire NHL all season long. Stuart Skinner, don't worry, Oilers fans, he's ninth worst as well, 6.8 goals saved, or below expected, I guess is what you would say in this situation. Not good. That's not good. Yeah. Anyways, so Swayman, he has not played consistently well at all. Jonas Korpisalo, 6-3-1, 256 goals against, 901 save percentage. 2 shutouts for Korpisalo. I'll be curious to see who they go with in net, whether it's going to be Korpisalo or Swayman against Edmonton. And then, of course, Stuart Skinner last night, that goals against is almost at 3.0 again. The save percentage dipped. He was so close to a 900 save percentage, but that has dropped back down to an 892. Calvin Pickard, 7-3 on the season, 241 goals against, 901 save percentage. We take a look at the Boston Bruins. Their top point getter this year is David Pastrnak. He has 32 points in 32 games. He's a point per game, only 11 goals on 127 shots. His shooting percentage is not very good right now. It's just below 10%. Brad Marchand, the fact that he is as old as he is and he's coming off of hip surgery and all this stuff 13 goals, 24 points in 32 games. And then, of course, Elias Lindholm, one of their big free agent signings. He only has 14 points in 32 games. He has not worked out for the Boston Bruins the way they were hoping for this season. And then, of course, defensively, Mason Lowry is leading the defense in points with just 12 in 27 games. Charlie McAvoy, I think he's had a season to forget as well this year for the Bruins. He's not putting up any kind of offense. He is a +4 rating, and that's pretty good on a team that gives up a ton of goals. McAvoy, though, not having a great year. Zadorov, 8 points in 32 games. Zadorov's never been known for his points, though. So, and then, of course, the goaltending. And if we look at the Edmonton Oilers here, Leon Draisaitl, of course, leads the team in points, 47. McDavid has 44. Nugent Hopkins, 17 and 31. Need more from Nuge. But Zach Hyman now, he is up to 10 goals on the season in 26 games, and that's a real good sign. It shows that he's probably, he's likely going to get to 30 goals this season, despite the games that he missed with injury. So that's really good, considering he had, 1 or 2 goals after 18 games or something. So whatever the case was with Hyman, he is back and better than ever. Bouchard leads the team defensively in scoring with 23 points. Nurse is second with 15 points, and then Skinner and Pickard. That is it from me. That is pretty much all I got for the day after discussion. I know I said it wasn't going to be a 40-minute long video, but it ended up being almost 40 minutes long. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. Whatever your thoughts were, anything that you think I missed, anything that you wanted me to talk about, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, just commenting anything anyways. I do like engaging with everyone. I try and engage with everyone and acknowledge everyone's comments, whether I agree with them or not. Your support means the world, Oil Country. Like I said, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are not yet subscribed as we climb towards 4,300 subscribers. And we are trending way up with the YouTube algorithm these days. And 2025 is going to be a huge year for us. I know it. I can feel it. For the Edmonton Oilers, hopefully they're able to bounce back. And on Thursday, they're able to beat the Boston Bruins coming into town. It's going to be a good one. I cannot wait. Tell someone that you love them, Oil Country. And of course, as always, fight like a kid. Always fight like Ben. Let's go, Oilers. We'll see you in the next one.